There's some huge news to go over today. The Pittsburgh Steelers have made multiple moves, including a sneaky good signing as they continue to peruse the free agency market as well as the trade market. Omar continues to make moves, but not only that, we have some shocking new details being revealed surrounding the recent trade of Kyle Duggar. You're going to want to stay tuned to the end of the video for all that information, but before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, about 68 or so percent of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers, so if you want to help us towards that goal, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Folks, the Steelers continue to make moves. We're about a week away from the trade deadline. Of course, the Steelers have an absolutely crucial game this upcoming weekend against the Colts. But at the most important thing right now to cover is the moves that they've been making. Let's dive right into it. You can see just moments ago, the Steelers have made multiple signings, including Jack Driscoll, Derek Forrest, who I covered yesterday, and wide receiver John Rhys Plumlee to the practice squad. And of course, we'll dive into all of them. And familiar face here with John Rhys Plumlee. He, of course, he has some ties to the Steelers, which if you're unfamiliar with, I'll dive into here in a second. But let's dive into some of these signings. Let's start with Driscoll, and we'll go down through the order and see how these guys will actually affect the team heading into this weekend and going forward. So we know that Driscoll was drafted by the Eagles in the 4th round 5 years ago, played almost 70 games with the Eagles, played college football at Auburn. And of course, at this point, it's going to be interesting to see what he can actually do for this team as an offensive lineman, mainly just depth for the Steelers here. And kind of the similar thing with Derek Forrest. I had a video on him yesterday. Of course, the video was made before they made the big trade for Kyle Duggar, but if you want to check out the full information on him, check out the video from yesterday. Could make an interesting impact on the team if they need more safety depth, but again, at this point, they're trying to kind of keep him for depth because we know this team, they've been dealing with injuries. Deshaun Elliott recently is going to be appears at least that he's going to be out for potentially the end of the year, but a lot of time here. But let's dive into the one everyone's waiting for, and that is John Rhys Plumlee. Now, we know he signed originally with the Steelers as an undrafted free agent following going undrafted in the 2024 NFL draft. He's also played with the Seahawks and the Jaguars, but he's I don't know if I'm going to call him a fan favorite, but people definitely around the Steelers, even though he hasn't really made an impact at the NFL level, he is still a pretty unique player. Played quarterback in college, played wide receiver, was trying to develop into a wide receiver here at the NFL level. And you can see there at Central Florida, he played in 52 career games, starting 33 of them, and was a quarterback completing a ton of passes. You're probably wondering, why do they need a quarterback? Of course, do they need another backup? All these different things. You have Will Howard, you have Mason Rudolph, you have obviously Aaron Rodgers. However, he's turned since into a wide receiver. And you can see here in 2023, he was still a quarterback, but the Steelers waive running back Raheem Blackshear and linebacker Jacoby Woodman from the practice squad. So those are some other moves that they made to make room for these guys. But he's a unique player. Now, you can see here, they're bringing back former fan favorite, quarterback / wide receiver, which is a funny headline, but he is pretty good and has some really good intangibles here. He runs a 4.5 40-yard dash, almost a bit under a 7-second 3-cone drill, has pretty good vertical, and he could and has shown at not the NFL level yet, but some preseason stuff, specifically against the Houston Texans. If you guys remember that game, I think it was in mid-August. Yeah, there it goes, August 9th in 2024. He was very, very impressive. Now, how the Steelers will use him, that's still up in the air. We would assume it will be more so as a special teamer. He can be a viable return man on kickoffs, which is something that we know the Steelers haven't really had at least this year, a ton of success with. He posted 48 yards on 2 attempts for the Seahawks in the, I believe in the regular season, and of course in the preseason. The Steelers used him before. So, not a great receiver yet, of course, because he's coming back from being a quarterback, but he has all the intangibles. He has things to be a very effective special teams player, and to be honest, just a fun signing that could have pretty interesting implications going forward, depending how they use him. But again, he's not going to play quarterback, we would assume, at least at any point in the NFL, but to bring him in as a wide receiver, which is, again, how he signed at the NFL level for a couple of the other teams, for the Jaguars and the Seahawks, is quite the interesting turn of events here, and happy to have him back. I know there were some fans that when he was initially let go were a little bit upset just because of how fun he is as a player, but at this point he is going to be a special teamer primarily, and we'll see how he does returning kickoffs. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on that, and of course some of the other signings as well. Derek Forrest, he's an interesting one, and Jack Driscoll, some more depth on the offensive line. Now, I want to touch on a couple of the trades. Now, yesterday, of course, they traded for Kyle Duggar, and you can see this tweet here. Con executed another low-risk, high-reward deal, and there is some new information I'll dive into in a second. second. But Duggar won't cost the Steelers really anything this season, and they will not be tied to his large contract since it was wiped out. And that's the new information I'll dive into here. Duggar will be playing for a contract this year, so expect to see another year out of him. If it doesn't pan out, the Steelers only moved 1 round back on day 3 of the draft. But if he gels well with the defense, obviously he could be really good and assign him to a team-friendly deal. So this all stems from a new report that came from Ian Rappaport following the trade. And of course, I had a video on the trade yesterday, and I talked about how he is under contract for another couple of years, and he basically signed one of the bigger Patriots contracts of the current team. But turns out the Patriots are paying most of what's left, which is the $5.4 million on Kyle Duggar's original base deal to complete the deal. The final two contract years have been wiped out. Sources say he'll be a free agent after 2025. So because these deals, the deal is so interestingly structured here, the final 2 contract years have been wiped out, meaning that they won't count toward, I mean, they're done, right? He's going to be a free agent after this year. So this is essentially a rental, and you moved 1 round back on day 3 of the draft, which makes this deal even better. I said it was a heist before this new information came out. It's even better now because you're not on the hook for any more existing salary. Obviously, from the Patriots side of things, they had benched him a ton anyway. He wasn't great at tackling, and they have some other guys that they prefer, younger players and more experienced players for that matter. Like, they're playing really good football. They're making a bunch of trades. They traded a couple players yesterday, but this is an even better deal than most people, I think, initially thought, because the worst case scenario is he's horrible. You move around back in the draft. You're not tied to him long-term financially. If he does play well and he gels with the already highest paid defense and he gels well with, the defensive backs there, I like it, obviously, right? Because he's a safety. They need it. Deshaun Elliott's out for a while. He will be out for the foreseeable future. It is an absolute masterclass of a deal here. And I think that at the end of the day, you look at what they can do with their safeties. You see FS, Jabril Pepper, SS, Kyle Duggar. I don't think Clark and Thornhill are going to completely go away, though, especially against Indy with Kyle Duggar jumping on board mid-week. And some more information about Kyle Duggar, if you're unfamiliar. Like, a lot of people are saying that they're probably going to use him in the run game more, which is where he thrives as a safety, and that obviously makes sense. You can hopefully have Jabril Peppers be somewhat competent in the passing game and stopping that. But at the end of the day, whether he is primarily used as a run stopper or a pass, defender there, well, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But he's going to be better than Clark. I can guarantee you that. He's been horrible this year and was really bad in general for this team. And as you look ahead to the game on Sunday against the Colts, huge implications for the playoffs. I think, and I'll cover it in a video later today or tomorrow morning probably, their playoff, whether you win or lose, their odds go up and down. Like, it's a 20% swing, right? So you have to go out, and obviously the loss last week hurt them greatly. You look at some of the, their weapons right now. Jaylen Warren's coming off of a great week. You still lost the game. Calvin Austin, he didn't look great. A couple drops. Same with Roman Wilson, a drop there last week. So they're still in the market for a wide receiver. They're still going to make a trade to kind of replace Calvin Austin, or at least move him down. But it's going to be interesting, and this team needs help in a lot of different ways, and they've been one of the worst defensive teams in football, which is ridiculous, especially the secondary, at least that is. So hopefully we see more out of TJ Watt. Hopefully you see more out of some of the cornerbacks. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.